Okay, today we're gonna tie FlyFishFood's Blank Saver Booby. So we got a Firehole Sticks 618 in the vise in size 8. And some Danvilles 140 in black. This is just some thread that I have laying around. It is probably the first thread that I bought when I started fly tying years ago. And it's almost gone, so let's use it up. All right, we're just gonna get that thread started on the vise, on the hook. Let's get a nice thread base. Back here to the front where we can tie in our booby eyes. These are some chartreuse from Hends. There you go, there's the coat on them. You just cut it in half. You can kind of round the corners on it if you want. I don't know if the fish care. This fly ends up being a lot like my favorite popper fly, which is basically a bucktail tail, and then Estes, or I used this last time I used UV jelly. Sorry, I'm all hands right now, so I'm getting those eyes right there on the top of the hook. I'm doing under wraps to try to kind of tighten it up around there. But either an Estes or that jelly fritz. So this fly uses a marabou tail and a jelly chenille, and then the foam booby eyes. So for me, it basically ends up being a swimming version of my favorite bass popper. So we got those eyes tied in, and we're definitely going to use some super glue on there. And now we're going to tie back into the bend of the hook. For our marabou tail, I'm just using some Fish Hunter marabou in black. And you tie down the bend of the hook so that this marabou doesn't foul around the hook. You're gonna tie it in extra long. So FlyFishFood ties it in. We wanted to tie it in extra long here. And then Devin Olson on one of his, I think it's the Humongous, he ties it in extra long, goes down the bend. So I've been doing that a lot, and it really helps. The also thing that really helps is to get that marabou wet so that it is manageable and isn't just all over the place. Get that marabou going for the tail. Trim it out at an angle so that you can just kind of clean it up. These woolly booger type flies, where you got these tails and that chenille, this doesn't have to be the cleanest tie off, or here, you know, you end up having a little bit of a bump in your transition. You can build up some thread if you'd like. with that chenille, I don't think you end up noticing it. So it's just fine. But there we go, we got a nice long tail here. So while this just has a tiny hook, it's not necessarily a streamer hook, you end up with a profile that's way bigger than what a standard type woolly bugger would be tied on this hook. So that's what that's gonna do for you, is this is gonna be a lot easier to cast. Smaller hook, less water catching material. So you'll be able to cast this a lot easier, but with that long tail, one is going to give you a lot of action, and it's going to give a lot bigger profile. So here we go. Here's that FNF jelly in blackjack. This is the first time I've gotten just the jelly. I've gotten slush jelly, the UV jelly, and I would have to say that overall, I really like this FNF product. It's very similar to an Estes, but it seems like it just has a little something extra to it. It does like to be a little bit all twisted up on itself. So sometimes you gotta help it get out of its own way while tying it onto your hook. But I don't know what fly tying is if you're not kind of fighting some kind of a material. So get it up behind those booby eyes so you can get it a couple wraps of thread in front of it or behind it, a couple wraps in front of it, and then you can trim it out close. Few more thread wraps there, and then come up to the eye of the hook. Where we can do a nice 3 or 4 turn. I totally lost count there. Do a whip finish. Trim those threads off. Here's where super glue or Solaris bone dry you come in there and you can get those thread wraps. Top thread wraps right there. The bone dry is nice because it does not, like all UV resins, it's not going to set up until you actually hit it with the light. With a super glue, the clock's ticking as soon as you put it on there. So the bone dry, the Solaris bone dry, you can, if you get it on something you don't want, you can kind of brush it off. But there, now those eyes are locked in. Let's get a little zoomed out so you can kind of see the whole fly with that tail. And hopefully that jelly fritz can actually work as maybe a little bit of a hook guard, because that hook is in there, but That's really soft, kind of flowy material. Anyways, that's the FlyFishFood Blank Saver Booby. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a like, drop a comment, and go ahead and subscribe. Thanks.